Although we looked at local scope in the demo in the previous video, let's just recap what local scope is. Local scope is when a variable is declared within a function and is only accessible in that function. So if we look at this example here, the variable convert to meters factor is declared, in other words, it has the var in front of it, inside the function. The opening curly brace is the start of the function, and the closing curly brace is the end, and that declaration is inside. When you make that declaration on the inside, then that variable is only available inside the function. And so if you were to try to use that variable outside of the function, you wouldn't be able to. It will show up as undefined. And we did that by closing all the browsers to make sure that it wasn't already globally defined, and then going ahead and trying to access that variable, and we saw that it was not available. The great thing about local scope variables is you don't have to worry about conflicts of names. Let's say you had a variable named sum. You might want a sum in many different functions depending upon what you're summing up, and you don't have to worry about conflicts that one function might change the sum to a value and another function will change it to a different value, and then you don't know what value is in sum anymore, because if you declare it at that local scope, each instance of that sum is a separate instance, and it's only available during the execution of the function. And so that's the great thing about local scope variables, and it's highly recommended that you use those local scope variables. Local scope is a bit different in Java and C++. Every block in Java, C, and C++ creates a new scope. JavaScript does not behave the same way. So let's look at another example. We want to look at a function scope variable with the same name as a global scope variable. So as you can see, we have a global variable named price, and we also have a local variable named price. Here we have two variables named price. Well, this variable is only accessible in the function. So once you enter the function, it's going to be referring to this price variable, and this one will no longer be used because we've declared our own within the function. So when we run price is price, we should see the 100 because we're not inside the function when we're accessing this price, so we're going to get the global scope version. When we run this function and calculate the money saved, we're going to pass in a 10, so it's going to take 10% of 50, which is 5, and it's going to show that the price inside the function is 50 and our money saved is $5. Let's see if that's actually happening. Okay, so like I said, this first price is 100 because we have not executed any of this function code yet. The next one, this alert price it's calling from inside the function, so it's going to give this local variable value. And then it's going to use that local variable in the calculation to get the $5 saved. And next we're going to see that the amount saved is $5. Then we're going to call alert price is, and it's going to show us a value again. Well, we've got to remember that this price here is only accessible inside the function, from this bracket to the end bracket. We're no longer inside those brackets, so we go back to the global price. Well, the global price was never changed. It's still 100, so we should see 100. Let's look at another example. Okay, so here we're defining calculate money saved, passing in the discount again, but we have not defined price anywhere. Here we're just using price. We haven't declared it with the var, and here we're just using price. We haven't declared it. Well, what happens when it's not declared? Well, it's automatically global. So there is no price that is specific or only accessible to this function. There is only one global price. So when we set the price to 100 here, it sets this price and this price because they are the same price. There's no separate declaration. So when we get our first alert, we're going to see the 100. Remember, we haven't called the function calculate money saved, so none of this code is executed yet. So then when we do call it in this alert, we're calling calculate money saved, and we're passing in a 10. Now it is going to start executing it, and this is going to set this price here to 50. This price is the global price, so it's going to change this one because it's the same variable. The 50 is going to have a 10% discount, so we're going to get $5 again. So we see that the price was changed to 50. We save the $5, and when we come out, since we didn't declare this price to be local to the function, it's going to change the global value, and now our price is going to be 50. So just one keyword, var, makes a big difference. And that's why I'm always harping on you to write the var, even if your JavaScript code works, because then you know what you're declaring. You use the var when you want to declare it, and then if you know you're using the same variable price again, then you don't need the var again. You always want to have at least one declaration of the variable before you start changing it. Otherwise you get into this situation where you're automatically global. And one more example. So our next example, see how we're declaring price outside? So now we're intentionally creating a global variable, and so we can change that global variable inside the function. So the first thing we're going to do is set the price to 100. Then we're going to define this function. When we define this function, the code inside the curly braces is not executed, it's just saved away. And so the price is not set to 50 yet. We've only defined that when we call the function, the price will be set to 50. So the first thing we do is alert that the price is, and it should show 100 because that's the last thing price was set to. There it is. Next, we're going to say amount saved. So we call calculate money saved and pass in the 10. 10 gets passed in for discount percent. Price is set to 50. Well, price is not declared. There's no var price inside the function. That means that we're using the global one declared outside. So the price gets changed to 50, and we should be able to see that. Yes, this line says price is 50 inside the function, and then it's going to do the calculation. 50 times 10 divided by 100 should give us the 5, and here is the 5 returned, and it says amount saved is, and the return of that function 5. Now we're going to alert the price. Well, because we're changing a global variable, that change is going to be shown outside of the function. So there we go. So the key difference was that var inside the function. Let's go back to that one where the var is declared inside the function. What's great about this is that you can have variables that are only accessible inside the function. That means that if somebody else wants to use price, they don't have to worry about what variable names are used inside the function, because they're only used and only accessible inside the function. So we could use name or any common variables. You're going to see we're going to start using I a lot, and we don't want that I to be changed in a function call. Like if we're running this code here, we don't want all of a sudden price to get a new value. So it's really the best practice to use local scope variables in your function. Khan Academy is going to use some global scope variables, and we are going to understand them. But as you develop your programming skills, or if you choose to develop your programming skills, you'll want to start taking advantage of always using local scope variables and passing parameters for things that are used also outside of the function. Here is a summary of what I just mentioned. And that is variable scope.